seatbelts for a 360-degree burnout. Precision handling for 1 to 4 drivers. New Mario Kart 64. It really kicks asphalt.
Welcome to the lounge. How do you follow up on the first ever Mario Kart? A game which created an entirely new genre. In my opinion, you have to try and elevate it to another level and establish new genre-defining elements which will become staples of the series going forward. To many, Mario Kart 64 lives up to this premise. The successor to the promising but relatively bare-bones Super Mario Kart was released in 1997 in Japan and 1998 in the rest of the world. Just like Super Mario 64 and The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, it was the first of its kind in 3D. Mario Kart 64 was supposed to be a launch title for the new system, but got delayed since Super Mario 64 needed the manpower to be done in time. This didn't hurt the game though and could have been a good decision in the long run, since the pressure to succeed was severely reduced. The Nintendo 64 was supposed to be focused around multiplayer gaming, which went hand in hand with the conception of a new Mario Kart game. 4 players from the get-go, no adapters or anything else needed. This was a match made in heaven and certainly a promising concept for a successful sequel. I got to play Mario Kart 64 shortly after I first played Super Mario Kart, so I could see the big jump in technology and graphics right away. I cared deeply for Mario Kart 64, way more than for Super Mario Kart to be quite honest. I played this game a ton, especially with my sister. We had epic clashes in battle mode, while I tried to rival my father in time trials. Also, the speedrunning scene of this game is probably the one I am most invested in. Matthias Rustermeier, the GOAT of MK64 speedrunning, is one of my all-time favorite streamers and a great ambassador of sportsmanship. Still active legends like VAJ and Abney, as well as some probably lesser known people in the community like TJL or King Kelp, do a fantastic job in promoting this game, even after all these years, and continue to fuel my interest in it. Mario Kart 64 is regarded as one of the best games of the N64 era, being the second best selling game of the console with nearly 10 million copies, only being outsold by Super Mario 64, which was often bundled with the console while Mario Kart 64 was not. It sold more units than Super Mario Kart, even though the Nintendo 64 was not nearly as successful as the Super Nintendo. According to Metacritic, Mario Kart 64 is rated 83, making it the worst rated Mario Kart game besides Mario Kart Wii. In my opinion, racing games in particular profit heavily from leaps in technology, resulting in better hardware and more opportunities for new features. This means that racing games have it hard to compete with their sequels, even though they always have to be seen in their time and out of their time. I want to analyze if Mario Kart 64 deserves this rating and if its legacy as one of the best Nintendo 64 games, and at least in my perception as one if not the best of the Mario Kart games, is justified. I'll try to put my nostalgia and love for this game aside, but be warned, it will be a challenge for me. At the end of the video, we'll rate this game as part of the Spiny Shell Cup, and we'll see how well it keeps up with its predecessor and in later videos, its sequels. The second installment of the series had a rough draft to work around. Super Mario Kart was a huge success, especially in the multiplayer department, but the jump to 3D graphics from the Super Nintendo's Mode 7 was big and not an easy one. Mario Kart 64 was worked on during the development of Super Mario 64 and released even before the legendary Ocarina of Time. Nintendo couldn't know if their approach to 3D games works, but as time would tell, they knew how to develop in this new dimension. Even though the Nintendo 64 had 64 bits and Nintendo saw a big technological advantage in that, the true power of the Nintendo 64 was severely lacking. The system still used cartridges, therefore the games had to be as small as possible, which brought many problems with it. Mario Kart 64 had some tricks to get around these limitations though. The characters are no 3D models, they are rather 2D images of 3D models, and the same goes for the items in this game. If you drive and hold an item behind you or see one on the track, they are just images shown from the direction you are facing. This can look awkward sometimes because they stand out, but especially the drivers fit well into the environment and it's a brilliant way to save some power. By that it was made possible to have 4-player split screen happen, which was supposed to be a core feature for the new game, but wasn't common or even established at that point. More drivers do come with some downsides though, like the absence of clouds, trees or even the music, and running with fewer frames per second. But overall, the capability of a 4-player split screen in Mario Kart on the Nintendo 64 in the late 90s was amazingly implemented and fully succeeds in taking the multiplayer experience to the next level. I don't want to talk much about different versions and regional differences, but I want to examine the game's frame rate. The NTSC version, available in Japan and North America, runs at 60 Hz or 30 frames per second. The PAL version, available in Europe and Australia, runs at only 50 Hz or 25 frames per second. This led to a slowdown on the PAL version, which effectively runs at 5/6 the speed of the NTSC version. The game feels slower that way, but effectively allows the player to have about 17% more time for the same movement. In speedrunning, PAL regions have a huge advantage because of that. Growing up with the PAL version of the game, I'm used to the speed and don't perceive it as slow or unoptimized though, and my footage will be PAL version footage as well. Another dimension brings with it a new way to handle driving. Well, in reality you still have to manage only 2 dimensions since your kart is glued to the ground unless you're jumping off a ramp. You have to consider the steepness of the terrain though, since you can tumble down from very steep sections. Every interaction with the wall is kinda wacky to be fair, but it leads to more funny happenings than you might think, so I'm willing to forgive this. The Mode 7 driving of the predecessor still afforded a new approach to driving, and the improvement over Super Mario Kart is a huge one. Since you don't move the map beneath you but your kart itself, the feeling of driving is drastically better and it feels way more adequate. Admittedly, these controls are not as smooth as in the newest games. If you've never played this game, it can take some time to get a feeling for them. But I like the way you control your kart and I managed to do what I want pretty much every time. The best improvement this game brought with it, besides the jump to the 3rd dimension, is without a doubt the introduction of mini turbos. If you drift the right way, you get a speed boost now, similar to the way it is handled in newer games. If you drift around a turn and wiggle your control stick back and forth 2 times, the smoke around your tires turns from white to yellow and from yellow to orange, and releasing the drift with orange smoke grants you a nice mini turbo. Driving feels way more rewarding now, and drifting in general is way more intuitive. Again, if you have never played this game, it can take some time, but personally I think this way of drifting is a great leap and implemented the idea of instant gratification very well. If you want to play Mario Kart 64 for the single player experience, you have the choice between Grand Prix and Time Trial again. Grand Prix mode offers you 50cc, 100cc and 150cc with increasing difficulty. As an added difficulty, you can even spin out at 150cc if you're turning too hectic to the left and right. It's an interesting idea on paper, but quite weird while driving, and I'm not sure why they implemented it. After beating all of this, you unlock Extra mode, which is the precursor of Mirror mode. You have 100cc engines and strong opponents in this mode, but all of the turns on the tracks are reversed. A neat idea since your muscle memory can get challenged in these races, though I always preferred the idea of Reverse Cup, or however you want to call it, where you race all of the tracks backwards. It's a shame Mirror mode became a staple of the series, but Reverse mode was never given a chance in the spotlight. The introduction of Extra mode is a nice addition, I don't want to miss it though. Time trials are still being held at 100cc and you can still challenge a ghost of yourself. If you own a memory card, you can save any ghost you want. Well, at least if you didn't fall off the track, beat your previous ghost and your memory card actually works. These memory cards are 90s technology at heart. This means it can work, but you can never be sure. And even owning a memory card can be listed as a requirement, since they weren't as common at that time as during the GameCube era, where they were needed for basically every game. So yeah, the ghost feature still wasn't as well done as it should have been, but they tried to improve it and that's something, I guess. Although I never owned a memory card, I still had loads of fun with time trials. You get 3 mushrooms for every attempt as well, which is a staple by now and allows for more dedicated fast lap attempts and opens up new possibilities for shortcuts. Also, there are 3 unlockable staff ghosts on the 3 raceway tracks as an added challenge if you are devoted to time trials and want to prove your skill at the game. These staff ghosts would become staples of the series later as well. The coin mechanic of Super Mario Kart was abandoned in this sequel, maybe to save some space and models on the track, or simply because they felt that the coins were unable to bring enough value to the game. I never really missed them, even though I liked the mechanic in general. Items also got a major change. Instead of one spot on every lap where you can get an item, with a few extra ones here and there, you can get a multitude of items per lap if you catch an item box at the designated spots. The CPU players also have to use these boxes to get items themselves now, and they don't have personalized items anymore. They can use the same items as you, except for green and red shells, because these projectiles were too much to calculate for the Nintendo 64, that's my assumption. These changes to the items introduce more variety to the races and are a welcome and necessary change, improving this aspect of the series by a long shot. The item roster compared to the first game lost only the feather, which is not a big deal for me, even though it could have had the possibility of adding some interesting 3-dimensional shortcuts to the new tracks. Besides that, all other items from Super Mario Kart return in this game. The banana peel can now be held behind you for protective reasons, the mushroom has a little animation when using it, and the green shell can't be placed on a track behind you anymore but can be shot behind or in front of you. And something about the animation of shooting the green shell is quite satisfying to me. But after it hit the first wall, it slows down way too drastically. The red shell now takes a little time to aim, but after that it gets way more aggressive and somewhat more reliable than before. The shells can also be held behind you for safety, just like the banana peel. The star and the lightning bolt returned pretty much unchanged as they are to this day, and the boo item was freed from the multiplayer mode to be always available. New items were added, with most of them being absolute staples of the series nowadays. The red and green shell now also come in a triple variant, in which they circle your card and protect you from other projectiles, as long as one of them is covering the right spot. The mushroom also has a triple variant and a golden form, which grants you infinite uses for a short time. The banana peel even appears in a pack of 5, being held behind you in a straight line. If you slide through a banana peel, you can even save yourself from spinning out by braking at the right time, sometimes at least. The fake item box got introduced as well, which was at its best in this game to be quite honest, because it looked exactly like the real item boxes, only having the question mark inside turned on its head. If you're holding it or a banana peel as well as the 5 package, you zoom out a little. This can be triggered manually at any point, but is forced onto you by these items. It doesn't happen with shells though. But the most well-known and probably most important addition was the spiny shell. This beast seeks out the player in first place, while also crashing through everyone who is driving in its way. Diabolical and a new perfect way to end a friendship. Great work, Nintendo. I can't imagine Mario Kart without it anymore. The only problem with it, which is unsolved to this day, is that you only get it when you are relatively far back, where you as the user don't get any real benefit out of it. It would be too powerful to get one in second place though. Maybe grant the user an additional benefit so it's not a waste of an item for the player who activates it. On the other hand, this would make it even more powerful, so that's probably not a good idea. Boost starts are changed a bit too. Instead of Super Mario Kart system, you now have to start holding the acceleration button between the second red light lighting up and the blue light lighting up, which signals that the race is starting. I like this change and way of timing, since I think this is a more natural way to boost start. You simply start accelerating right before you start driving, and it makes sense in a way that you are faster that way. You can even hop over your opponents or shove them away by boosting successfully. Super Mario Kart's weird life system is gone. Well, kinda gone. You still have to place at least 4th in every race or you can't progress any further in a cup. This change sucks even more than the original idea because it offers an easy way out of races where you are out of luck or simply not as good as you want to be. If you need to win a race, simply place 5th over and over again until it works out. You don't pay any price if you do this, your number of tries is not limited and it has no other penalty as well. If you are not good enough or simply got unlucky, you should have to retry completely, at least in my opinion. A golden trophy only feels earned if you didn't retry a single race, or at least if you gain an advantage of more than 9 points in the other 3 races. Just abandon this mess already. Rubber banding returns in this game and it's pretty much the same dilemma as the last time. The idea is right, but the execution is way too extreme. Sadly, I would say it's worse in this game. Sometimes, even if you drive as perfectly as possible, showcased by tool-assisted speedruns, your opponents can be glued to you. On other tracks you can get far ahead easily. If you drive badly, they can get way too slow for my liking as well. And sometimes when they are ahead and you drive perfectly, you still can't catch up, not even with the support of good items. This iteration of rubber banding certainly wasn't optimized enough and can sometimes really take away the natural difficulty progression and make the races a lottery, independent of the engine class. There are a few auxiliary features in this game as well. You can decide whether you want the standard view of your card or if you want a more wide-angle view, which is the zoomed out view activated by holding banana peels. And this effect even stacks up. This is triggered by the top C button. The right C button changes the map at the right of your screen to a speedometer or a graphical overlay around the entire screen, illustrating the advancement on the track made by every character. During races, you can even toggle the music volume by using the L button. You can turn it on, set it to half of the normal volume or off. The designers took some artistic liberties as well and implemented some phrases and descriptions which show up at certain points. They seem comical and are never to be seen again in the series. I don't mind them, but you don't need a boing every time you jump or a crash whenever you explode. The multiplayer mode in this game is the definitive way to play Mario Kart 64. If you play as 2, you can try your luck in the Grand Prix mode. If you have 3 or 4 players, you only get a choice to play Versus or Battle mode. Versus mode is pretty much the same as Mat Race and Super Mario Kart. You race head to head on single tracks with other controlled opponents with the added gimmick of mini bomb carts which will try to ruin your day. They are placed on a track and if you touch them you'll explode. They take the spot of the bullet bills from Mat Race. The battle mode in Mario Kart 64 is probably my favorite battle mode in the entire series, even to this day. At least I have the fondest memories of this iteration of it. The only negative aspect compared to modern battle modes is the absence of different battle styles. You can only fight balloon battles again, where you simply get 3 balloons which have to be popped. Additionally, the battle courses are amazing, even though they are again only 4 options. I have put way too many hours into this part of the game and fought many epic clashes in these arenas. The mini bomb carts are also present in this mode, and if you have 3 or more players, then everyone besides the last 2 gets to play as a bomb cart and can mess with their friends after they've lost. A nice idea to keep everyone invested and playing while still maintaining the spirit of this mode. While gathering footage and playing this mode again, I had a blast and can recommend it wholeheartedly. The character selection, again, is made up of 8 characters. 6 of them are returning veterans who have been part of every Mario Kart game, while 2 of them are newcomers who have become staples of the series and also have returned in every subsequent entry. Koopa Troopa has left the cast of characters for a short vacation, but he is still a true karter at heart and will return in the future. Donkey Kong Jr. on the other hand never got to be a part of a mainline Mario Kart game ever since and probably won't get another chance in the future. He's almost forgotten and his place was taken by his son, I guess. The true Donkey Kong takes the stage in this game and never steps out of the spotlight ever again. So Jr. passed the steering wheel on to his son, how kind of him. The other new addition is everyone's favorite greedy, fat anti-plumber. That's right, I'm talking about Wario. One of Mario's many antagonists and his arch-rival, at least according to Wario himself. So if you like garlic, money and laziness, then your new favorite driver has arrived. These 8 characters are divided into 3 weight classes with distinct designs and stats. Since the personalized items are gone and the rival system is nowhere to be found either, the discussion about the drivers will be relatively short. The award ceremony after races also lost its character specificity. This ceremony in general is nicely done though. The top 3 come together in front of Peach's castle from Super Mario 64 and you receive your trophy. If you manage to finish the cup but don't get awarded a trophy, your character looks at it all from the side and sadly drives off into the distance, silently chased by a mini bomb cart. The only touch of personality is the new sound design of every character. Everyone has new sayings or noises which they use to celebrate success or to mourn losses. Their portraits also have a happy version, which they show when they've got selected or win a multiplayer event, and a sad version, which can be seen after a multiplayer defeat. These are designed with a lot of charm, and I adore them. Mario and Luigi represent the middle of the spectrum again. The 2 brothers are pretty similar to their design in the original game with solid stats across the board. They overachieve in no department, but they are passable all round. Their acceleration is the worst by a slight margin, but their turn taking is the sharpest and most effective without drifting, which can be useful in versus and battle mode. Also, Mario is confirmed as slightly heavier than Luigi in this game, although Luigi is a bit taller. Peach and Yoshi join Toad as lightweight drivers, and in this game this means they are a part of the clearly overpowered category of drivers. Lightweights have the highest acceleration, highest top speed and receive the best speed boost of the mini turbos. The downside for them is being pushed around by everyone, especially for Toad since he's even lighter than Peach and Yoshi. Their turning range is also the worst of the bunch, plus they lose the most speed by not drifting around corners. In races and time trials, these 3 are the best characters to choose from, no doubts about that. Yoshi still hasn't developed his iconic sound design since the game still uses his original sounds from Super Mario World, which doesn't feel very appropriate. And he leans his head way too far at every turn, which looks pretty uncomfortable. He's still my favorite though. Wario, Donkey Kong and Bowser make up the heavyweight class. They accelerate slightly slower in the beginning, but ultimately reach their top speed faster than Mario and Luigi. Their top speed and mini turbo boosts are the same. They lose the most speed off-road though, so you have to drive carefully, but you can take corners more freely, since these 3 lose the least amount of speed when they are not drifting around corners. Bowser also stands out as the heaviest and biggest character, while the muscles of the Kong are being a bit heavier than Wario's fat reserves. And the Kong has a surprisingly loud cart, somehow this always stood out to me, and is unique compared to the other ones. If you compare these 3 categories of drivers, it's pretty obvious why the lightweight characters are overpowered. Mario Kart 64 is the only Mario Kart game besides Super Circuit where there's such an imbalance in that department. Heavyweights only really profit from being heavier and being able to push others around, and that's not a fair compensation to offer. Even though I enjoy seeing Yoshi as one of the objectively best drivers, I prefer having a good balance among the characters. An honorable mention should go to Kamek. Kamek originally was supposed to take the 8th spot on the character roster, losing his spot last minute to Donkey Kong. His popularity from Yoshi's Island wasn't enough back then, and he didn't make it into any other game of the series so far. Donkey Kong was a better choice in my opinion, since he's a way more iconic character, but I wish Kamek the best of luck to get his chance in Mario Kart 9. He just wants to have fun too. The 20 original Super Mario Kart tracks are followed by 16 brand new ones in Mario Kart 64. Every cup consists of only 4 tracks this time, but they don't reuse themes and are a bit longer and more diverse. Also, you only have to complete 3 laps per track in this game instead of 5, allowing the tracks to be a bit longer and more interesting, marking a new standard for the series, which is still in use today. The Mushroom Cup opens up with Luigi Raceway. As the name implies, this track is a more or less standard raceway with a nice Luigi theme slapped on it. It's a simple opening track where you drive around a short tunnel and have to drift on 2 long corners at opposite ends. It even has a hot air balloon which is carrying a spiny shell for you to grab. It is followed by another simple track, Moo Moo Farm. It's the shortest track in the game and doesn't really stand out, besides the cute cows at the side and the pesky Monty moles on the road, which let you explode if you hit them, just like real moles. After that you travel to Koopa Troopa Beach. This track has a laid-back atmosphere and features 2 possible shortcuts. You can use a mushroom and jump into a little cave to shorten your lap, or drive through the lower water and cut a shorter part out of the track. There are also some crabs that let you spin out, similar to a banana peel. At 150cc you can even jump into the cave without a need for a speed boost. There's also another free spiny shell to grab on the track, located on top of a giant rock. You just have to use the ramp successfully. The Mushroom Cup concludes with one of my favorite themes used for a track, Kalimari Desert. This track features train tracks on which 2 trains are always traversing. You have to wait on the railway crossing if you're too late, or you can use a star right before the tunnel and drive on the train tracks to use a developer intended shortcut and skip a lap. The trains really stand out on this track and can lead to interesting occurrences, even though in multiplayer the trains are drastically shortened and less impactful. In the Flower Cup you have to start on Toad's Turnpike. This highway is flooded with cars, trucks and buses, which you have to maneuver around. If you touch one of them, you'll explode again. Mario Kart 64 really enjoys explosions now that I think about it. Well, the track succeeded in having a unique personality, even though I think this track is too stressful and monotonous. In Extra mode, all the cars drive in the opposite direction as well, and the only item spots are at the side of the track, at little pull-offs. It is followed by one of the coziest tracks in the game. Frap Snowland is a snowy landscape where you can see cute snowmen all around the track, but you probably guessed it by now, if you touch one of them, you'll explode. At one spot there's even a real minefield of snowmen. But it's snowing here and there's a beautiful effect, and you can see a giant Snow Mario and Snow Yoshi. Choco Mountain on the other hand is pretty uneventful. You drive around a mountain made of chocolate. The interesting part of this track is the danger of falling down a ledge and losing a lot of progress near the end of the lap, right after you could have been hit by giant chocolate boulders. The Flower Cup presents Mario Raceway as the closing act. This track is similar to Luigi Raceway since it reuses the Raceway theme, even though the tracks are clearly distinguishable. I prefer Mario Raceway over Luigi Raceway, but it's also relatively simple and nothing to write home about. The Star Cup kicks off at Wario Stadium. This giant arena is inspired by big stadium racing events, like monster truck shows. If you take a look at the track layout, you'll see that it fills up almost the entire area of the stadium, which is kinda impressive. On the downside, this means that this track is extremely long and looks the same all the way through, which can get tedious on the latter laps. The only thing keeping you awake are the horrifying faces of Wario on the wall and the jump across the track near the end of the lap, where it's way too easy to not make it. The second track is Sherbet Land, another cold track, but instead of snow it is focused around ice this time. The road is slippery and you have to share it with penguins, but surprise, these penguins won't let you explode if you touch them, they'll just let you spin out. How kind. You also have to drive through a tight cave in which penguins try to ambush you. In the middle of the icy lake you can see a giant penguin reigning over its realm. And if you fall into the ice cold water you come back as an ice block and your character is frozen. It is followed by Royal Raceway, which is without a doubt the best raceway in the game. It features a giant ramp followed by a jump across a river, and you can even visit the exterior of Peach's castle from Super Mario 64. For some reason I love to toy around in the gardens of the castle and spend way too much time there as a kid, without really doing or achieving anything. It has a nasty last turn as well, be careful. Bowser Castle is the final challenge of the Star Cup and oh boy, it's a good one. First you start on a bridge before the castle, drive through the front yard, enter the castle, drive through it and leave it again through the backyard. All of this is supported by lava pits and fiendishly laughing thwomps, crested by some handsome portraits of Bowser on the wall. The thwomps let you spin out if you hit them or crush you if you're underneath them. If you have a starter though, you can take revenge and destroy them. This track embodies what a Bowser castle should feel like. This Battle Cup starts with one of my favorite tracks of all time. DK's Jungle Parkway is a big jungle where you have to find your way through and jump over a river where you decide your angle yourself and have to decide how much you want to risk. Restless natives, as they are labeled in the manual, throw rocks at you if you leave the main path. And at the end there's a small cavern with a steep wall where you can try to cut the corner. It is followed by my absolute favorite track ever, Yoshi Valley. This track is one of the most unique tracks ever made since it offers you 4 different pathways to choose from. 3 of them are pretty short and useful, while the other one is far too long and costs you a ton of time. Porcupines are trying to block the way and let you spin out, so watch out for them. The game doesn't tell you which position you are in, only showing question marks on rankings even at the end of the lap where all of the paths merge and you have to evade a giant egg hovering over a little platform. The player in first place is still blinking on the minimap though. The concept of this track is a neat and unique idea, that's why it's my favorite. Branching paths would have been fitting for DK's Jungle as well. The penultimate track, Banshee Boardwalk, is way simpler than the first 2, but it's still the one completing my triumvirate of favorite tracks and they are all raced back to back. Amazing. Banshee Boardwalk represents a classic ghost track. It's dark, you drive around a wooden track and through a decayed building. The road is pretty tight and you can fall into the water easily. The atmosphere here is on point and is my favorite ghost themed track of the entire series. Also, it's my favorite track for time trials. Once again, Rainbow Road finishes up the Special Cup, but this time I don't like it. It's quite the opposite to the one from Super Mario Kart, since you can't fall down and have a railing everywhere around the track. Additionally, it's the longest track in the game and the only obstacles are occasional chain chomps who are trying to eat you. The look and music of the track are amazing though. You see colorful images floating around, including portraits of the characters, and the music playing is probably the best in the entire game. It should have been shorter and more challenging though, and looking at it for too long is unpleasant for the eyes. The track selection in this game is a clear step up from Super Mario Kart and in my eyes one of, if not the best of the entire series. If you look at the tracks in their respective times that is, since modern tracks obviously are more beautiful. But if you imagine these 16 tracks as state of the art, then you can't do much better. The battle courses of this game don't disappoint either. Big Donut is a heated, obviously donut-shaped arena filled with burning lava in the middle. The atmosphere is amazingly crafted. The actual battles are lacking a bit though, since you have to drive around the entire donut if you want to attack your competitors. Block Fort on the other hand is a different story. 4 colorful little forts interconnected by many bridges and filled with item boxes from top to bottom. This can lead to interesting pursuits as well as many tactical maneuvers. This is my favorite battle course in the entire series. Double Deck is not bad either. It can be chaotic here since you can't use the minimap to orientate yourself because you have so many floors packed on top of each other. The traversal can be tedious though, since you have to drop down from the top floor if you want to land on the platform in the middle, presenting a similar problem like Big Donut. The final battle course is Skyscraper. This is supposed to be on top of a roof of a skyscraper in a big city, and it's a really small arena where you can fall down a long distance. There's a hole in the middle of the track and the outside has no walls either, so you have to move around carefully while still being observant of your rivals, since you can't hide anywhere on this map. To conclude, this quartet is nicely done and presents 4 unique and fun arenas. Mario Kart 64 is one of my favorite games of all time. I think my bias towards this game shines through my remarks. It is one of the most important games of its time, formed the true identity of a Mario Kart game and defined many important aspects of the kart racer genre in general. It made several steps in the right direction and provided a successful jump from 2D to 3D. This game is not without its flaws though, and I don't want to try and pretend it is. After all, it was released on the Nintendo 64, which is an interesting system on its own. The console was never a true competitor at the time, and only the amazing games developed by Nintendo and Rare let the console live and prevented a bigger failure and utter disaster for Nintendo. The limitations are visible in this game and other classics, which try to work around these problems as well as they can. Other games didn't even make it to the console. A more modern and brave system incorporating the advancement of technology would have helped Mario Kart 64 to be what it strived to be. The graphics could have been better, the models could have been true 3D, and the multiplayer modes could have been smoother. But the given technology was used as good as it could have been. Comparing Mario Kart 64 with modern entries, you see a clear evolution which started with this game, cementing its importance for the series. Obviously the newer games have more accurate controls, they look nicer, they have online multiplayer, and still they are celebrating their roots. Nintendo knows how to work with their best IPs, and Mario Kart certainly is one of them. If you compare this game to its predecessor Super Mario Kart, you'll find improvements at every corner. The controls are a huge leap forward, the tracks are amazing and unique. The core mechanics and general frameworks have been updated and improved. You can play with up to 4 players, mini turbos. The only downside is the loss of our dear friend Donkey Kong Jr. and Koopa, but he returns in later entries, so that's fine. Becoming this kart racer blueprint is an even more impressive feat if you think about the fact that this game was the first Mario Kart in 3D. Similar to Super Mario 64, Nintendo had to believe in themselves and find a way to bring this formula into the third dimension. And once again, they nailed it. Even though games from this era are infamous for being hard to go back to, I enjoy playing Mario Kart 64 every once in a while, challenging my time trial records and driving around these iconic tracks again. So in my eyes it held up way better than Super Mario Kart and is way more accessible these days. Maybe it's my nostalgia, or maybe this game is something special. I don't know. What I do know is that Mario Kart 64 is still alive in 2021, more than 20 years after its release. In my eyes this game truly established Mario Kart. With this game it was made clear that Mario Kart was no one-hit wonder. Mario Kart was here to stay. If you want pure, raw Mario Kart in 3D environments with solid controls, amazing tracks and a typical magic Mario Kart feeling, then you should pick up Mario Kart 64, grab some friends and have a good time. While diving into it again, it kindled a lot of joy, and I don't want to miss this game. My friends for whom the game presents no nostalgic value had a blast as well, even though we have all its more modern successors at our disposal, reinforcing my appreciation for this gem. I have to admit though that it's way harder to go back to this game than to some more modern entries. I classify this game alongside Super Mario Kart and Super Circuit as a classic era of Mario Kart. These games rely more on skillful gameplay and suffer from older hardware and controllers. This leads to less intuitive gameplay and feels harder to master nowadays. It's time to enter the Spiny Shell Cup now. The single player experience is slightly better than Super Mario Kart, improving on time trials and offering extra mode for Grand Prix. 6 out of 10. Multiplayer wise this game improved a lot, introducing a 4-player experience and utilizing Nintendo 64's focus on multiplayer gaming. And it's still loads of fun today, certified. 8 out of 10. The tracks, as I already mentioned, are amazing in my eyes. The only negative here is the limitation to just 16 tracks. Quality instead of quantity is the key here. 8 out of 10. The character selection is again pretty limited, but Wario and Donkey Kong are clearly superior and more important choices never to miss out on a game's sins. 7 out of 10. The item roster is amazing as well, introducing many mainstays without which the game can't be imagined anymore, like the Spiny Shell. 9 out of 10. Uniqueness, on the other hand, is not a core strength. As I proclaimed, this game serves as a main blueprint for later games, so it fails to stand out nowadays. 5 out of 10. On the other hand, this means that this game innovated a lot, and good stuff, elevating the series immensely and pushing it forward. 8 out of 10. My love for this game is pretty obvious, but looking at it critically, I don't think it's my favorite. There's certainly room for improvement here. 8 out of 10. Mario Kart 64 relies heavily on good driving, even though the items can have a bigger impact than in Super Mario Kart. The CPUs are way more dangerous, even though they don't use projectiles. The Spiny Shell is another random element able to crush your hopes and dreams. Compared to Super Mario Kart, it places more on the luck side of the spectrum, even though driving skills are way more important, obviously. This was my love letter to Mario Kart 64. I hope you understand what this game means to me and why I think it held up so well. It may not have been the first Mario Kart game, but maybe going forward it was the most important one. Next time we take a look at Mario Kart Super Circuit, released on the Game Boy Advance. It was the first portable Mario Kart game using Mod 7 technology again. Seemingly no one talks about this game anymore though. We'll see if this is justified. That's all I have to say for now. What do you think about Mario Kart 64? Do you agree with my biased judgment, or am I on the wrong track completely? Feel free to leave a comment down below to tell me if you agree with me and to give me feedback so I can improve my content and myself. If you wish to support me even further, consider subscribing to my channel. I have been Lars and I hope to welcome you in the lounge again soon.